Well, hopefully I didn't blow your ears out with my breaking glass there. Welcome, Culture Cats. Shall I call you Cats?
You straight away. Look at that! Look at that! You start. I ruined your intro straight away. I apologize. What can I say? You get me on, and it takes me 10 seconds to ruin the start.
I expected it. I've learned this. Cats are always like, they do whatever the hell they want. You got to get used to it. It's fine with me though. I appreciate a little independence. It's actually cool. But you didn't ruin anything actually. But if that's what you want to say, it's fine.
Well, thank you. I did appreciate the music. I was having a bit of a dance. The beauty of not having the camera on, for the audience is you don't have to.
You get to geek out. Yeah,
I get to geek out.
I actually thank you because I made that intro myself. It's one of the few ones I have. Most of my intros are done by either Counter Talk or another account called Mocking Media, who are great videographers. I'm shite and shit. Whatever, American English, however you want to say it. I'm no good at it. So, if you liked it, that's a compliment, I don't know if he's naked. Robski wants to know if you're naked. I don't know. Well, wrong show.
Under my clothes.
Yeah, wrong show, Robski. This is serious show. We don't do that here. It's like, why? But welcome everybody in the chat. It's nice to see all of you here. One thing that Cats and I have in common is we really like Black Mirror. So it's going to be a geeky kind of episode. We're going to talk a lot about it. Hope you all like it too, because this one, White Christmas, is a bit much for the faint-hearted. So I can tell you that. One thing I'll tell you that Charlie Brooker said about it, he said when he likes to write, but when he came to start a series, he was like looking around and he noticed that all of us who watch and consume, series, dramas, legal or police shows or horror, we like to feel settled and, kind of sure about things. And Charlie Brooker decided, nah, there's not enough unsettled out there. My job's going to be to unsettle you. I was like, well, that explains the whole series, don't it, Cats?
He did a great job. He did a great job. I've got to tell you, I didn't tell you this off camera, but White Christmas, it's a bit ominous that you chose this one for tonight, because this was the first, I'd never even heard of Black Mirror until it was Christmas Eve a few years ago. And this episode was on, because, White Christmas, it was on Channel 4 on Christmas Eve. And I watched it, not even realizing it was part of an anthology series or anything like that. I just watched it and thought, wow, what a brilliant special that was. And I was telling somebody about it the next day. Did you watch that special they did? And they were like, that's not a special. That's a whole series. I was like, really? There's more of this stuff? Like, awesome.
It was like candy then, right? Because you're like, wow, that's another way he describes it, is like a box of dark chocolates. He said, emphasis on the dark. Don't be thinking this is all sweet and sugar. It's going to be dark and it's going to be assorted. That's what he said in the same interview. He actually nailed it down quite well. Like, I couldn't think of a better way to describe it. But that's really funny that you watched it right when you watched it then on the premiere, because he premiered it on Christmas Eve on purpose. Like they Netflix did that just to be quirky about it, because it was not a Christmassy, like there's nothing holiday. Well, besides the snow and the snow globe and the reoccurring theme of visiting the child every Christmas, there's not really a lot of Christmas spirit in this one.
No, they mention the word, don't they? That's about it. They mention the word.
That's about it. Yeah. It's about as close to the spirit as they get. But let me just give everybody just a brief rundown. If you haven't seen the episode, I'm not going to go into great detail. I'm just going to tell you it's in 3 parts, and it has Jon Hamm as the lead. I guess we'd call him the lead because he's in all 3. It starts out with him as a hobby running this little program called ZI, where he actually helps gentlemen with their meeting of women for sex, period. That's it. We're just going to use the real words here. Like, you get them laid, because they're not very good at it. And he talks them through the meeting and all of this. And he actually gets someone in a pretty dire predicament, wouldn't you say?
How much do we want to spoil? I don't know. Like,
you could tell them everything, because it ran in 2018. They should know by now. We're not going to be the ones to spoil anything. It's out everywhere. So go ahead, you tell him.
I get to. Well, there's a few stories in this. All right, I'll spoil this one then. Yeah, so he's got this guy who seems to feel like he needs help going out and hooking up with people, doesn't he? And he's remote viewing through his eyes. Like, the technology at the time means that the guy sat behind the computer can look through the eyes of the person who's roaming the bar. And he's kind of coaching him and guiding him through picking up a woman. And this woman spots him talking to the voices in his head, and she thinks he's a bit crazy, which is funny because, well, she's a bit crazy, isn't she, Claire?
She's what we would classify as a schizophrenic. She listens to the voices in her head. She's tired of it. Yeah. And yeah, so she was a bit loon. She had crazy eyes, for sure.
But he didn't know that. So they go back to her apartment, and he thinks, it's wow. He thinks he's going to get some, like, and she comes in with a cocktail and gives it him to drink, and it turns out it's poison. And she has someone, basically she murders them both because she is trying to liberate them both from the voices inside.
She says that. Yeah, that was so creepy when she said that. She said, listen, just drink it because it's going to free us both from this. We're going to be free. I was like, oh, she really going to do it. She going to kill him. Like, I thought she might. When she left the room, I thought maybe, I do a lot of coverage of serial killers and legal stuff. So I thought maybe she was getting a knife, because like these things always end bad, especially when, don't forget, we got a panel. Not only is this guy, this kid, this young man has paid Jon Hamm's character to actually instruct him. But Jon Hamm, he's not good enough. He gets a whole panel of people to watch, a whole bunch of other guys who want to watch this kid get laid, which was bizarre. So there's like everybody watching, and there's going to be a murder. And like, whoops, what do you do?
The whole thing of that, like, does throw up some good questions because, I mean, I know we're not at the point where we can chucking robot eyes to people and stuff like that, but it's perfectly within the bounds of possibility to, stick a camera in some glasses and have a microphone in the ear or something like that, and actually have, be able to coach somebody through something.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah. They do it. They do sell these service, not maybe as like through the eyes and all, but they do sell coaching service. There was plenty of like Be a Man service out there I've done a couple of coverage on other channels when I was a panelist of people that actually, get paid to instruct people how to go out and pick up women and do this. And they talk to them, and they can talk to them through a earbud if they choose, but, yeah, Jared, I do. Shh, quiet. Yes, I do. Lots of murder. And if you don't want to be on the list, don't be spreading that around. Anyway, sorry. But what fascinated me the most was not only is that you're able to do that, but actually the issue of what happens if something happens and you hear it, or you do, like, say you did mic him, or you say you bugged the room to where you could visualize, and then a murder takes place, and you are now in the act of committing an illegal act, which is the bugging and the visualizing when you shouldn't be. But there's another illegal act going on. What do you do? Because, Matt, the character, gets charged for this, for aiding and abetting, because the murder took place, because he didn't report it. He didn't do anything. So they wanted him to report an illegal act of doing an illegal act. But, like, that's a big legal quagmire there. Like, what do you do? Like, you can't do the right thing without getting yourself in trouble.
Well, yeah, but I wouldn't, because I watched the end of the episode. Do we, without going on and spoiling what happens at the end, do we really know that first story actually genuinely happened, or could that just have been a story he was telling the other guy?
Well, based on the fact that at the very end, we'll just jump to the end, he's actually, it's part of his charging, it's part of his sentencing, and part of how he is not going to go up on real charges for aiding and abetting a murder or a manslaughter, because he assisted them with the technology to get the confession
Oh, of course. Yes.
Yes, you remember at the end.
And
there's a twist at the end that we're not going to tell him about until the end, because that's like the best, because like he kind of deserved it, I think, maybe, but no, there's another legal thing. But yeah, so he gets into this mess where, of course, now the police have got him in a, we don't know that yet, and it jumps to an outpost, right? Is it like some kind of, I mean, it could be Alaska for all I know, like, or some Siberia, or some wasteland covered in snow. Like, it doesn't make any sense, but they're just out there somewhere, some job, and he meets Sam. I think that's the character's name, Sam, right? Or Joe. No, Joe. The actor's name is Sam, but Joe. And well, one thing that we didn't mention was when Jon Hamm is witnessing the murder, the supposed murder, through the guy's eyes. He's watching everything happen. His wife finds out about this, and she gets really pissed. And we learn about another technology during this episode where they can block you when they're mad at you. They just block you physically, not like block you on Twitter or block your email or your telephone call, but literally put in a device at you and erase you. Like, you can't talk to them. You can't see, like, they can't see you anymore. You're just like a staticky little figure. She was pissed.
That got me thinking, that blocking thing, because like they had something with their eyes, and so yeah, you can't see them, you can't hear them, or anything like that. But kind of like technology, how, like right now, if you're on Twitter and you say something someone doesn't like, they can block you on Twitter, right? And they can choose to go and block you on Facebook, and they can choose to go and block you on YouTube. And but how long will it be before all this technology is, we get our Google account or whatever account it is,
right?
This technology runs through all these different platforms. And when we block somebody, they are literally, they can't email us, they can't telephone us, they can't contact us on Twitter. Surely it is possible, like technologically possible with when we sign up to all these different forums with the same account, for that to become reality, do you think?
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's we can kind of do it now, just not right in front of us. Like, they still could walk up and talk to us. So the thing it adds is the fact that they can't even walk up and talk to you. Like, when you block them, you really block them. Like, you just don't exist to them anymore, or they don't exist to you anymore. You're just like that type of block. They're just like out. That's it. You're out. Like, you're done. Like, I don't have to deal with you anymore at all. You can't do anything until they unblock you. And she chose to, can you imagine if, like, oh gosh, having been married, I can imagine that this would have come in handy a few times, as long as you can unblock them and block them. You know what I mean? I wouldn't want to block them forever, but I can imagine a few times where it would have been nice. You just ended that conversation's not going anywhere. Zap. Like, this is not productive. Turn them off. But I can imagine we all feel like that a little bit. And yeah, I can imagine you might not want to say it if you're married, but you might feel the same.
Absolutely. But people do. Like, although, we might not block them with technology. Like, we just zone people out. We don't speak to them for a while, do we? We fall out, And I suppose it's just a technological reflection of that, isn't it? It's quite a clever little idea. Yeah,
it is enticing. It's enticing for sure. Like, just to be, but it gets a little out of control. Like all of the technology that Brooker tends to show us in these episodes, they are just on the edge of what's possible. Because like every time he finishes an episode, I remember an interview from a while back where he said, I pressed the button to send the episode, and I swear it starts to happen in reality everywhere around me. He said, it's a little weird. Although I'm not predicting the future, I'm writing about things that are right here, right now. I'm writing about now, he says, all the time. I'm just putting it in a future-esque package for you. But if you think it's not reality now, or the possibilities of things that are happening now, you're wrong. It is all about what's going on now. So even though he's talking about a device that may not exist, he's definitely talking about concepts that exist right now. And so absolutely. Yeah, just not as fancy. and not as advanced. Well, definitely. So so he gets himself into this mess. He gets himself divorced, and he loses custody of his child. And this character Matt, played by Jon Hamm, moves forward and takes a job at this, or says that he takes a job at this outpost that we're talking about. This place where he meets the other character, Joe. And they're talking, and it happens to be Christmas. This is where Christmas comes in, and they're talking about, being away from everybody for the holidays, and it seems like Joe's not much of a talker, huh? When he's sitting there at that kitchen table, just, listening.
There is a bit of a hint of what's to come, because when it cuts to this outpost, Joe, the other guy, is Joe. He walks in to find his. There's only two of them there, so to find his workmate, and they've been there for 5 years, and the type of conversation they're having straight away. This is early on in the show, isn't it? Like the type of conversation they're having is the type of conversation you have with someone that maybe you've just met an hour ago or half an hour ago. You're very much like getting to know each other. So it was certainly a bit of a. How can I put it? A hint of what was about to come.
Yeah, because they're talking about such a long time, and you're like, why are they so awkward in conversation? It's like they barely, like, they know each other's names, but they're like, it was very awkward. They wasn't comfortable even talking at all. Yeah, I get that. It was like a big one. Oh, I got to do the UB2B thing, and I'm not really good at this, but here we go. Godless Scummer, for £2 says, can Culture Cat say hi to his brother Conspiracy?
Oh, Godless Scummer, how are you doing, buddy? Yeah. I will. I'll pass it on to him. But nice to you, mate.
Are you twins? I wanted to ask you that. Are you guys twins or just brothers?
Well, I mean, they're all as useless as each other. Clones, twins, brothers, but they're all fat, bald, and ugly. So
just tell me they're not cookies. If they're cookies, I just might have to have a little major freak out. Like, I won't know which one I'm talking to and what's going to happen to you afterwards. Do you have a hierarchy? Is there like a 1 or 2 or 3 thing?
Well, now the Culture Cats account will be my number one. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm definitely enjoying that one.
And the content is. I know I missed last week, but the content is just stuff I can get out more regular. So I will. I've averaged more than 1 video a week since March, which is good for me. So I think that this is where I'll be for a while.
Yeah, it's good. It's good because your content's always better when you feel you have the time and you feel like you're on the schedule that you can do it and you're doing what you want. So I've enjoyed every single one so far, but not that I'm shining you or anything, but I discovered you as you first started with the new one, and I like it very much. I like the humor, especially with the serious things like today. Like, that was serious, but I couldn't help laugh through the whole thing, and I'm like, I know this story, and it wasn't funny when I read it, but damn, it's sure the hell funny now. I couldn't even contain myself. But thank you for that, because sometimes humor mandatory, right? I mean, how are we going to get through those kind of things without it?
If you can laugh at, smile at anything, that's kind of like a philosophy for me, even in my own life. Like, I suppose it is with everybody, isn't it? If you can find the funny side and laugh about something, then you don't have any stress, do you? Just
right.
Just sit back and go, oh, balls, and have a laugh.
You do, because that's the way. That's usually, the best way through anything. I remember my nan would say, is a good laugh and a good sleep. Just about put right anything that's going on for the day, and she was right. There's always the next day. So, definitely. But on that, here they are at the kitchen table, right? In a day, it's supposed to be Christmas. Don't feel like Christmas. And that damn song playing in the background, which I was tempted to use for the promo, but it drove me so crazy I just couldn't, because I'd heard it so much through the episode. I was like, damn, no, I can't. I just can't. But so they're playing it, and they start talking, about why they're there, what brought them there. And Matt, who is Jon Hamm, then he starts to talk about his previous career, which he doesn't talk about this episode with the girl and the guy. He talks about Greta, a client, and technology that they have. This was
a great story. Sorry, that was. I'm going to say that second one was a great story.
No, good. So go. If you want to talk about the story, you go. please, because I could go on forever, but I want to hear your take on that part of the story, because that was wild.
Well, at first I thought it was going to be something very different, because it starts with this lady, Greta, settling in for an operation, doesn't it? And then she appears to like have her eyes closed, and the surgery begins. But she's awake through it, which in itself is sort of like frightening. I thought it was going to be some sort of trauma about somebody having a surgery and being awake. But it's not, is it? It's almost like I mean, they call it a cookie, didn't they? But it's like a fragment of her conscience. Being removed from her body, a copy of a conscience,
like a sentient copy. Like they feel and think, and they're you, but they're not you. It's like you without the body. Like weird. A recurring theme, I think.
Well, it was like that stuck into a Google Home, wasn't it? Stuck it into a Google Home. It was frightening. I'll let you tell the next bit because I don't want to hog it, but it was a really strong start.
Oh, well, you couldn't hog it because like I'm just horrible with this stuff. So I'm gonna toss it back to you after a few. But the thing with Greta is she was obviously like they're implanting, like they're putting that little beam thing in, and then they, like you said, they take this essence, this what they call the cookie, which is what they're saying is a copy of the person, a complete copy of everything the person is, their essence, and puts it in this device. It's kind of like Alexa gone wrong, or Siri on drugs, or from the first episode, the Rachel, Ashley, and was it Jack? That episode where they took the singer and she was a little robot like that. They put her whole being into something, kind of like that. Only it's encaptured, and he's sitting at a desk. He being Matt, Jon Hamm, is sitting at a desk, and he is trying to talk to them, and they're being like, they wake up as if it's Greta, as if she just woke up from the operation. But he's telling her, you're not, you're a copy. And she's like, the hell I am. This is me. Like, I'm me. And he's like, you're a copy. Like, you're going to have to do, you are just a copy, and you're here for a job, and you need to do blah, blah, blah. And she's like, hell no. I'm me. You can't take my free will. Like, I'm me. Like, you can't. Where am I? Whatever. And his job is to torture her into believing that she's the copy, because she is the copy. But being a copy of a whole person, of course, you think you're the whole person, right? So his job is to break her free will, to break her down into believing that she's just an essence with a job. And it's kind of cruel. This part bothers me, what he does. It's like mental.
It's the method of torture is ingenious to me, because she is basically a computer program. He's able, isn't he, to fast forward time for her, so she will experience what she thinks is months on end in just what's a couple of seconds for him. So he tortures her, doesn't he, by leaving her completely isolated with nothing to do, no one to speak to in this vast white room, and just leaves her there for 6 months.
Which is only like minutes for him, or a half hour or an hour, but it's 6 months for her. Like, they can manipulate time, which is fascinating also. Well, another clue is to what's going to happen, right? Because first we had the sitting at the kitchen table, and it's been 5 years, but they don't talk. Like, what? And then, okay, how did 7 months go by in a half hour? Like, what? Like, they can just manipulate it. Well, there's a good question here from Kim. Always Grateful Kim says, if the implant was placed prior to the development of the cookie, would the cookie not also have the memory of the decision? You mean the decision to purchase themselves a cookie to do everything? That's a good question. I don't know. And why not? I don't think it got addressed. I don't believe Cookie Greta addressing that with him during the torture. Do you?
No, but I wonder. I mean, I suppose if it's a computer program, they may write for it to activate or start recording data at any particular time they want, couldn't they? So not necessarily after implantation, maybe a day after implantation or whatever. I suppose they could do what they want with activating it, couldn't they?
Yeah, you would think, but like I guess that might be part of the preconditioning. Like it might be part of the device, like you said, in there ahead of time, so it doesn't, because they do plan everything out. Like Kim also mentions, look how cute they made the device that you put it in. It's kind of offensive. It's so cute, like a little egg, and there's the whole essence in there, like struggling for, to be recognized and fighting, to be themselves. And he's torturing it from this little eggy like device, but yeah, it was a little unsettling. Also how calm he was. Like, I was getting really annoyed with him, that how, he would roll his eyes every time she would express, how distressed she was about the whole situation. He would just roll his eyes like, oh boy, it's gonna take a little bit longer, and he'd just push a button and zap her, for a couple more weeks, and I'm just like, damn, he's so cold. I guess you'd have to be, but damn.
It does raise a question though, like, and it might reminded me, I know it's totally different in tone, but it reminded me of an episode of The Next Generation, Star Trek, where I think the Federation went to court and Picard represented Data because the Federation wanted to take Data, rip him apart and analyze him. Right?
Exactly.
Basically. And like, you've got this thing that is basically a computer program, but if you believe it's sentient and it's real, but it is a computer program, where do we cross that line?
Right, because wasn't Data was able to converse with you and to actually relate to you, and he was all socialized. So how, if you believe that Data is any way sentient at all, how could you possibly do what they wanted to do? And whether he is or he isn't, if you believe he is, how do you go that far? Like, how can you do it?
Exactly.
Just knowing that he gets up every morning and he says hello. He says hi, he talks to you, and he does relate, maybe not the same way as we do, but there's no doubt, if you watch Next Generation, that you don't feel for Data. Come on, he's a relatable character, and the way he relates to others, they all cared about him, whether he's a robot or not. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, like, some people would just say, yeah, but it's a robot, it's software. But like, if it becomes advanced enough, I mean, isn't the human brain, just when you look at the neurons and the way that the impulses or action potentials travel down, that we're just talking about movement of ions. We're just surely it's at some point that will be replicated. And how do we know when we've created something that is sentient and alive?
But how much of that bouncing around of those neurons, so to speak, how much of that is what makes our personality? Yeah, because we are born with certain traits and tendencies that we don't just get from assimilating our environment, right? Our personalities are our personality. How far is that electrical impulse and all of that stuff that they can copy? How much of it is our essence? Because we're all different that way, That's where it gets really dicey, huh? That's where my mind starts to blow up. I don't know about yours, but that's where I'm like, I don't know, if Brooker meant for me to go this far, but he really messes with my head sometimes.
It does make ask deep questions, doesn't he? But the guy in the video clearly doesn't. He's on the side of it's just a computer program, because he doesn't.
He does not care at all. He's cold. He's very, very cold. But he, in essence, does his job really, really well. And he is explaining it to Joe. And obviously, Joe is getting offended. He's just like, how can you treat something like that? If you think it's got feelings, how could you do that? And we see that he's a bit sensitive about this kind of stuff. And he's not sure he wants to open up to him, but they do. He figures whatever he tells him can't be as bad as what this guy just said, right? It can't be at least I'm not a cold-hearted, asshole like this guy. No matter what I did, it can't be that bad, to what this guy's doing to these things to these sentient beings, these cookies on a regular basis. So he starts to tell his story, huh?
And that's pretty good psychology, isn't it? If somebody sat next to you and they lay it all bare. This is what I've done. I'm such a horrible guy. You kind of feel like, I've got to join in now. And once I left the toilet seat up and pooed on the floor instead or something. You got it. Not that I've ever done that. I'll never leave the toilet seat up. But like you've got, it does make you feel as if you want to chip in and share your own story, doesn't it?
I guess you definitely would come off better no matter what your story is than what he had just said. Sandy, I can't pull that up because for some reason member shout outs don't come up over on the StreamYard, so I can't post it, but it says this episode, this one will make you reconsider implants or clones for real. I agree with you, Sandy. Absolutely. Make you not want to think about that, even though I do want to live in a VR world eventually. I find it fascinating, but that kind of stuff, the doubling up kind of, that kind of scares me. All right. Always has a pretty good question here for us before we go a little bit farther. I want to get this one. All right, because it's about the downloading. If we can download a copy of our consciousness with sentiency, then should it not also be considered human and given human rights? This is what we're talking about with data, because data in some aspects cross the line, like with emotion. Am I imagining it? Well, in one episode of Next Generation, did we not see Data try to express a tear to prove emotion existed in sentient in robots? Anything could be cloned, that anything could be assimilated, and so that there was an unfair judgment of character that he couldn't, or something. Am I imagining that, or did I see a tear?
There was quite a few episodes where he played with emotion. There was one where he had an emotion chip, where he could laugh, and there was another one where he was playing music or trying to get emotion out of painting. There was quite a few episodes centered on him trying to find his human side, weren't there?
Yeah. Well, I loved that show too, though. But the thing about these shows, especially Black Mirror, is when they get you thinking about these kinds of topics, when they get you thinking like outside of exactly what they said, and they're presenting like something you can go further with, they're timeless. That's why all the way here in 2022, we could do an episode on White Christmas that came out like in, 2018, 2017, like a while ago, quite a while ago. So like, we could still be talking about it because they're not solved. Like, we haven't solved the issue of consciousness in cookies. So it's going to keep going, but let's see. There's so much on here. One thing I want to say that I like to bring up about the cinematography, and I do often. Did you notice in the first story, the X's behind, when they get to the apartment, when they get to, what was her name? Jennifer. Was it Jennifer?
I can't. The one who murdered the boy.
Yeah. Jennifer, the schizophrenic. Jennifer, the schizophrenic with the poison. When we get to her apartment, everything's red, right? And you look on the wall, and there's like all these X's. It kind of leads you to believe what's going to happen. There's 3 X's, like triple X, in the background, and they glow. They're neon glow, and everything's bathed in a red light, like a warning. The bedspread is red, okay? And then as he fades back, the cinematographer, I'll never forget this, as he lays back after he drinks the poison, they make the red coming, the blood that comes out of his mouth even redder. Like, I'm just like, oh, damn, you're just playing with me. You're just playing with me. But I love it because the artistry there, that Brooker always picks these people that really get into what they do. And the cinematography alone in Black Mirror episodes always add to the story. For instance, the starkness of the white, where Greta the cookie has to reside. What a way to show emptiness, void, nothing, just all white, and her, boom, just her, and nothing but white, all surrounding her. So again, like, they're adding the visual, the cinematography, the way that they filmed it, like she was under the desk, with her feet up. Remember, she's climbing over something or hanging upside down, anything to entertain herself, because she's got nothing to do whatsoever. And she's like a little kid. You know how a little kid just can't sit still and fidgets and climbs all over and goes into twisty positions and stuff. It was kind of like that. Every time we saw her, she was like doing something like that, which I thought also was a good play that they did. But
Must be horrible. Like, you're right with the white and the starkness. It really did look as if she was in, like, I mean, a void is probably the best word to use, isn't it? You know, it'd
Yeah.
just be frightening. And imagine, I mean, I was thinking while I was watching that bit that what happens when the real Greta dies, right? Like, if they unplug the egg, does that just end the life of the cookie, or is that it? Like, is she just stuck there forever with nothing to do because Greta's got old and died?
No, I went back to watch it just for that question because I thought maybe I missed something, but we don't get an answer. We don't even get an answer to whether or not Greta is really satisfied with what's going on. All we see is Greta Cookie making breakfast, opening curtains, playing the right music, making the coffee, and the other one just laying in bed, kind of listless, like nothing is going on, with absolutely no desire to do a damn thing. And I'm thinking, wow, this is like a play on it right here. Like, be careful what you wish for. She wanted everything perfect as if she did it herself. Well, she didn't want to do it herself. And now she got like no will to do anything. Like, she just laying around. But we don't know. Like, maybe later in the day she got up and went to did something. I don't know. But just the ending scene just kind of made me think, like, wow, just be careful what you wish for, because this doesn't look so perfect to me anymore. No,
it was horrible. Yeah, it was really, really well done. But you're right about the cinematography. If you think about other Black Mirror episodes as well, the way they play with color filters and to really sort of,
like, Nosedive. How about the cotton candy pink filters of Nosedive? Everything was pink and lovely, and everything's just like, I'm getting my points. I'm a happy person. And like, everything was just washed in pastels, or the hippie idyllic bar colors and neons of the 80s from San Juniper, that was really cool too. San Junipero, rather. That was kind of cool too. And the starkness of this one, because when it comes to where we are in the outpost, isn't it filmed like 1950s, like a Mayberry episode or something, or like a just old time filming black, and even a lot of the things that are in the kitchen and all, they seem to be either retro or very outdated, or the radios, the cookware, everything seems to be not as futuristic as the other scenes. The two first scenes are very futuristic, aren't they? Like, where you look at the apartment where he was like, he's working from home to torture his cookie. Yeah, he's got such a great job. He gets to sit at home and torture his cookie in a wonderful modern apartment while he's torturing this cookie. And then also the bar and everything in the apartments, they were all more modern, not as modern as the apartment that Jon Hamm was in, but definitely not from the 50s. It looked more like, late 90s, early 200.
Well, it was just sparse of any technology whatsoever, wasn't it?
There was nothing.
Old school potato peeler, and there was not even a dishwasher. He was washing his hands, he was washing the cutlery, and it was it was just completely removed from any sort of technology whatsoever. But of course, we know, without spoiling it, we know that that's not entirely true.
Yeah, we're almost there for that one, but we could see that the cinematography there started to play with us too. It started to settle us down to listen to the story as if it was just like two guys just talking and nothing else going on. They got a fire going. It's Christmas. They're just going to have a nice meal together. I mean, I practically thought they were going to have to chop firewood and pump water. That's how remote this place is that they are. But it just led to the solace of it, the solitude. They're the only two people around anywhere.
And it was
just.
Sorry, go on.
No, go on.
Well, not just the location as well, but the fact that there was nothing around them, and you did get a glimpse outside to start with, and you literally couldn't see anything. But like I said, even though everything was retro inside, there was kind of a starkness in even what their role was there, because they sat at the table talking, and it looks as if they just live in a 1 or 2 bedroom little shack house. And you think, what could you possibly even be doing here in this? Like, why are you here? What job could possibly be performed here? You know, it really was remote, wasn't it?
Kim does remind us that some of the things in the farmhouse seem to be stainless steel, which would give us maybe the inclination that they're institutional, which could have been like if you look back, that would give us a clue as to the ending, like a big clue to the ending, you know, having something institutional, like, you know, everything being stainless steel, like stainless steel sinks or appliances or things like that. Over nature. That is a big clue. I didn't think about that.
No, definitely, yeah. But the whole cinematography, absolutely.
Yeah.
From each little mini story, it was superb. It really was.
It was, but you know, that's what I always love to remark on with every episode is the things that tie it together with everything. Even though every single episode stands on its own, you can watch it all by itself, like you did in the middle of a what was this? Was a series? It was a series
season 2. Yeah, episode 4, season 2. Yeah,
yeah. And so, you know, it's already well done. You didn't know about it, but it stood alone. It stood alone to entice you. It encapsulated itself. It was from front to end complete. You didn't need to wait for, you know, a sequel or need a prequel to understand it. And that's what I love about every single part of this Black Mirror. The only thing they have in common is all these things, like his use of cinematography to tell the story, his writing, which is superb, his playing, like he wants to screw us around. Let's be honest, like that's what he does with every episode. He wants us to think outside the box. He wants, as he said, and I was quoting him, he wants us to be unsettled by the time we're done watching this. And I definitely was. By the time we got here, I was completely unsettled. I was completely like, what now, Charlie? Like, I'm only like not even halfway through. What are you doing to me? Like, I'm completely unsettled by this. You've already got me thinking in 20 different directions. Well,
yeah.
So
yeah.
Joe's story is a little heartbreaking. It starts out with a relationship that is from two different views, not exactly the same as either appears it to be. Joe thinks he's in a happy relationship. His partner, Beth, is unsatisfied and not happy. But they're not communicating, and they don't know this. Joe has no idea. I kind of felt for him at this point, didn't you? Or he didn't see what was going on.
I mean, it's awful. It's awful. I mean, I didn't pick up on it. Like, so basically, his missus having an affair, isn't she? And we don't know.
Yeah, and we might No, you didn't ruin anything, because we might as well just say it, because we want to get there like in 2 minutes, like when we get to this part, rather than, you know, because there's so much in it. Definitely, because we could see that, because here's how you could have picked up on that. When she was singing, right, they were at a bar in karaoke, and of course he's drinking too much. He's happy. She, of course, hates that he's drinking too much and not paying attention to her or whatever. And they're having this dysfunctional little thing, although he's not aware of it, because he's happy drunk, thinking they're happy. And she gets up there to do karaoke and sings this really deep song, completely staring at somebody else the whole time. Yeah. So it was quite obvious that if she wasn't having an affair, she sure wanted to, or would be rather soon, because she spent a whole romantic song staring at that other gentleman, their friend, or what was his name, Jim or Jeff or something, I don't know. But just because it comes up later as to, well, no, I'm not even going to say that now. We'll say it at the end, how he figures it out. But we're, as a viewer, we kind of know that the relationship isn't working.
Well, we certainly find out not so long afterwards, don't we, when they get back to the apartment, and that bit as well. So they get back to the apartment, and he finds a hidden pregnancy test, doesn't he?
Yes, he does, and it kind of matches one from another episode. Same one. Yeah, you know, we saw a pregnancy test before in another episode. In the one where they bring him back from the bring him back as a robot.
Oh yeah, the guy with the red hair. I can't remember which.
Yeah. It's not all the memories of you, but it's something about you. Oh, always you're gonna remember create for what the name of that is, but
Yeah, I'm not so good with the names of the show, but yeah.
Yeah, but you know which one I'm talking about. And anyway, the same pregnancy test, very similar. Like they have the same little things, you know, they used it again. That was one of the Easter eggs. Was they're always dropping that from other episodes all over Black Mirror. But she's pregnant and she's not happy, is she?
Well, she's not. And this is, I mean, again, like the debate that could surround how she acts about it could go on for hours, couldn't it? Go on for years. But she obviously she doesn't want the baby. She's been drinking all night. She's pregnant. The guy found out, you know, and he thinks he's going to be a dad, and she doesn't want to keep the baby, and he's upset that he doesn't seem to have any say. Like there's no respect coming from her whatsoever in the fact that he could even have a conversation about it.
Which is horrible. Absolutely horrible. I was really upset with her. She was actually acting like somebody who had already made up her mind, and he was inconsequential. It's like she had already left the relationship. She knew how things were going to go. She had a plan, and that was it. And nothing he said or did was going to matter. And he didn't understand this because he's thinking that's my child. Like we're in a relationship. We did this together. Like this should be a joint decision. Like I don't get it. And it was not good. They get into an argument. She uses the zapper.
Gets short of it, and that part to me really annoyed me because it was not just the fact that she's made her mind up about what she wants to do with the baby. That's what she made her mind up, and it wasn't so much the fact that she actually it was the fact that she didn't want to have any kind of conversation with him about it, but it was the fact that she treated him with such contempt for even wanting, like how dare you even try and have a conversation with me about our baby? You know, block. There you go.
Exactly. And then of course, like I kind of really feel for him because he is totally blindsided. So of course he gets angry and he throws a vase. And she uses that opportunity to say, okay, that's it. I'm out of here. Or she leaves without unblocking him. So the block stays. Like she leaves and takes off and leaves the apartment. He can't stop her because if he's blocked, she can't hear him. She can't like see him really much. He's just like a staticky thing. So there's no physical contact whatsoever. He's watching her pack up. She leaves, done. She's gone. There's nothing he can do, but he's still trying because, he just thinks it's an argument at this point, right? Yeah. And he made some effort to try to track her down. He went to her job and they told her that she had left her job that day. The next day she was gone. She just resigned and left. Some time passes and he runs into her. Yeah, quite a bit, enough months that she's showing. She did not have the abortion. He sees her on the street and he's still blocked, right? And he's trying to talk to her. She knows it's him because he's blocked. She can see that it's static and she only has like one blocked person in her life, I would assume. So she knows it's like him. And she leaves. He's very upset. He starts tracking her. He sees that she's pregnant and now he's even more confused and obsessed almost with finding out what happened. Why? Like why, if she wanted to keep the baby, why won't she respond to me? Like, why am I still blocked? Why are we not like, what's going on? He becomes like a little mental about it, Well,
you'd be completely stunned, wouldn't you? You've been in a relationship with somebody, you've got them pregnant, and then as soon as you find out they're pregnant, you are literally bang, just cut off from everything, and you must feel so helpless in that sort of position, and just. I don't know, again, adding insult to injury, because it is a physical block, just feel like you're being treated with contempt, like you're
completely unfairly.
What are you even doing there? Yeah.
And isn't it all nature when something unfair happens, we fight against it. We're like, we want to know why. We need answers. We're not going to let it go when we feel there's something unjust or unfair is going on. That's human nature. So he gets a little more obsessive about it, and he tracks her down to her father's house where she happens to be living, and eventually she has the child. Now, because of this situation where he confronted her, she then went forward and got a legal block against him, which is different than a regular block. A legal block means he can have no contact with her whatsoever. It kind of takes it a little bit farther. It erases, this is the sad part. He couldn't deal with the relationship being gone, but he still had his memories of it, his photographs, his, anything to do with it. When she went and got the legal block on him, it erases every picture of her that he ever had. He can no longer see pictures of her or images of her or her. He can't see her anymore. Now the block is both ways. She is now a wavy figure that he can have no contact with and he can't see at all. She took that legally, and then it would, of course, also include the child because she was pregnant at the time and she wanted protection for them both. So there was some kind of legal thing that she did about that, which I thought was like, whoa. So now not only can she not see him, he can't really see her at all. And we know that when she goes to the farmhouse to check on her, because he knows where her father lives, and he just assumed if she's not working and she's pregnant, she needs a place to stay, she'd go home. And he was right, because they live far off, not in town, nice, quaint little home, no big neighbors around, quiet, serene, peaceful. When he sees them, she's all blocked out, but he gets to see the child. And we find out that he's been coming every Christmas to leave, gifts for this child that he doesn't get to have anything to do with. And we find out that years have passed, quite a few, 5-6 years, maybe?
I think she's 4 when
she's
when
4. So yeah. So yeah, and so he can't see her though, but he kind of figures out it's a girl based on some things that he sees happening from year to year. He figures out it's a girl, but he can't really hear the things they say or see the things, because everything's all blurred out. He can only see the grandfather, he can see him because he's not part of the legal thing. Well, he just, he's trapped. I feel so bad for him. All these years, he still don't have an answer. And we find he's going, he's telling the story to Jon Hamm's character, Matt, that, he's just doing this every year. He's just trying to find stuff out about them, and he can't move forward. He has no relationship. He has no life. He's just trapped in this cycle.
This is a bit that, the one bit that confused me a little bit. Like, we know Black Mirror episodes are so well written, and they think, they do think of everything. So maybe I've missed something here, but he was following. It was Christmas Eve when he went to the granddad's house because he knew that that's when his ex and the child would be there.
Right.
But what was stopping him on any other day of the year, driving to the grandpa's house, knocking on the door and asking for an explanation? Just asking, can you fill me in on what's going on? That bit, and I know maybe he was legally blocked, but he was trapping up there anyway.
Well, the thing is that when I don't know if he would have been seen. Like, I don't know if the grandfather could see him if he's legally blocked. I don't know. Like, I don't know how far that went. But also, remember, he was writing to her all the time. Remember all the letters. And he thinks she's just ignoring him and not addressing the letters. Remember? Like, he's trying to get in contact with her, pouring his heart out, coming up with all these solutions, begging to just see the girl, to meet her, that, and he's just feels that she's just ignoring him. And with a legal block, I don't know, maybe perhaps it included some parameter to where he would have gotten to even more trouble, like prison or something, if he approached the father, her father.
Yeah, must have been a leak. If it was just a case of if it was
because
just as easy as that.
Yeah, because you're right. It's like unfinished because he was so obsessed about it. You'd think he would be doing that. You think he'd be going to everybody she knew, right? And trying to get help to get her to change her mind,
Yeah, but it was so there must have been a legal reason. Must have been.
Yeah.
But it's sad though, because like you said before, trapped, and that's exactly
Mm-hmm.
what it was, because you can't move on from that. You can't do anything about it, but he can't move on from that. If you know you've got a child out there you've never met,
Mm-hmm.
but you know where the child's going to be on a particular day, like how do you mentally detach yourself from that?
Mm-hmm. You know, exactly. And like Luke is saying in the chat, it's a total cowardly move to ghost somebody to that level. It is cowardly. I would have to agree. When I think of Beth as a coward. I do. I don't, I can't say she deserved the ending, but I would say that all of her actions were cowardly. Acting the way she did when she was unhappy is a cowardly move to have an affair before you address your unhappiness in the relationship you are, in my personal opinion. I think she was a coward from the start, and everything she did afterwards just made it worse. She acted with no real direction for what I would call fortitude. She didn't have a spine. She's a bit weak. Including in how she ran away. I mean, you would hope that people would deal with things a little bit better and prevent the damage you caused to another individual. Not only was she a coward, she was selfish because she was hurting someone extremely, and didn't really bat an eyelash that we saw. She didn't really care.
Yeah, and I know like lots of people don't like sort of having difficult conversations, etc. But once she'd removed herself and run away, she could have, just written him a letter, and just explained what we know. Just explain. I'm sorry, but actually, this is actually the truth. And
it would have been the respectful grown-up thing to do, because let's be honest, she was in a relationship with him. For whatever reason they started a relationship, whether she was unhappy at the end or not, there was a time that they got together and they were together as a couple. And people forget to honor that part of the relationship, that there was a reason you were together there. You did have feelings at one time, and to keep that respect no matter how things end. Write a letter. If you don't want to confront, I understand that. You don't want a big argument. That blocking thing does sound wonderful. You don't have to have the big fight, but follow it up with a letter. Be courteous. Have some manners, like at least tell them what's up. It was just too much. It was too much for me. Always is reminding me in the chat that the grandfather would have been able to see him, because when they were walking in with the baby, he could see the grandfather, and he saw the grandfather often carrying the carriage or carrying things in, and he was clear and not all shaky, fuzzed up like the other picture of Beth or the child. So thank you for clarifying that. Always, I forget these little details sometimes.
Yeah, but that's,
the other episode was called "Be Right Back."
That's the one.
Yeah, that's the one. Be Right Back.
Yeah.
I knew you would remember. Thank you so much. Kim is she's like the archive. She's like the Black Mirror archive. She loves this as much as we do. And she has all these great details too. Well, so here we are. We got a 4-year-old, and it's Christmas Eve, and we find out that he's been going every Christmas Eve, but we flash to, first of all, there is another Easter egg. Like, he asked Jon Hamm what he did for a living, and he said he was a marketing salesman, which is like a nod to Jon Hamm's also very big, famous acting job with Mad Men. Did you see that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So it was a Easter egg nod to that. I forgot about that part, but so during this conversation that came up about what he did, and I thought that was interesting. But we go back to the kitchen table, and they're going to talk about what happens next, and we flash to Sam sitting in his apartment, or rather Joe. I don't know why I keep calling him Sam. He reminds me of somebody from The Hobbit. That's what it is. I don't know why. I keep calling him
Samwise.
Yeah, but his name is Joe. Okay, so Joe is sitting in his apartment, and he's watching TV, and he sees this news report about a train wreck, and unfortunately Beth's name comes up as one of the victims, and he learns that Beth has died. Beth being the mother of the child and his ex. and everything changes. Everything changes for him at that moment. He's obviously devastated that she's gone. He can't fix anything. But what does happen is the block disappears if she's not around. It legally can't block you from somebody who's dead. So that part goes away, and he realizes that. So
that raises a load of questions. Obviously, you know, the block's not in place. How is he going to get his child back? In fact, he knows at that point, does he, that it's a daughter? Is that the first time? Is he made out her shape yet? It's got a yeah.
So, he has made out her shape. I do believe by now he does know that it's a, you know, that you know, he knows there's a baby because he's been there and he's seen them carrying the carriage, you know, and he's been there a couple of years because this is now the 4th year right before Christmas. That when the accident happens, and he's gonna go and he wants to see again, you know, gonna give it another try.
The crazy thing about this is, like, if you've been in the position he's been in for 4 years and you've had nothing, you've had nothing, you've been chasing shadows, literally, you've got absolutely nowhere to go, you've got absolutely nothing. You find out that, you know, your ex-wife or whether she was wife or long-term partner, I can't remember, is now dead, and that's horrible. But the one thing he's got now is that he is the father of that child, you know, and like he can see, although he never says this in the show, I would be thinking, I can now see the fact that I'm going to get custody of my child. I'm going to be a big part of my child's life because that child needs a parent, you know, and you'd think you finally got access to your kid, wouldn't you?
Well, he does get brave enough to go, and you could see him working up to it, but he waits for Christmas Eve. Like, I don't know how close it was. I'm a little confused like that, like you. Like, why didn't he get a lawyer and just do the thing, you know, arrange visitation, have the whole thing taken care of? But in the emotional part of it, I also understand he hasn't moved forward in so many years. So I understand that a part of him is just not right about it either. If he's this obsessed with it that he couldn't move on at all in 4 years, I guess he wouldn't be thinking like you or I about it. He'd be just, you know, he'd be a bit messed up. You know, I'm trying to think of the right words, but yeah, he'd be a bit messed up. He's not right about it, you know, at all, because it kind of broke him in a way, you know, from rational thought about the whole process, because he can't wrap his mind around it.
I think it would break anybody, wouldn't it? I mean, it's that sort of severe. But he's got his shining light now, isn't he? He's got that light that, you know, he can drive up, he can become. And this is what's so sad about the end, isn't it? Because he's now got hope after 4 years of nothing.
Exactly, and he's got that hope, but he's also got the sadness that she's gone, and it's the end of something. It could never be what he wanted it to be, because really he just wanted to fix it all this time. Remember, he's still writing to her. He's still writing. He hasn't stopped. You know, he wants to still fix it. But now she's gone, and so then it gets to, this is the part that really kind of gets me. I don't know. You ready? You want to tell this part, because this is pretty dramatic. Yeah.
Okay, okie dokie then. So
you could do it.
I love this bit. He traps up to the house, right? And like I said, although he never specifically says it, from my mind as like a dad, I'm thinking this is his moment where he's now gonna be introduced to his child and become a proper dad to that child. He's gonna get the child back in his life. And he sees the child and he knows that she's not blocked anymore, because he can see her from the back and she's building a snowman. It's all happy. And he walks up to her nervously and you know, she turns around and looks at him, and she is Chinese, right? Or she's is that I was describing? And he's not. And his wife.
He's obviously not. We left that part out. No one else in this is of any Eastern descent except for Beth and Joe's best friend, who was at the bar, who is the man she was looking at when she was singing. Okay, so he gets instant, all the pieces of just hit him in the face like an unwanted pie. I would not want to find out like that. But all along, he's wondering, why doesn't she want to have the baby? Why won't she talk to me? Why is she just avoiding me? Why? And now it's like, oh, he He did it. It's the other man. She was having an affair. It's his baby. That was his child. All this time he's loved and wanted a child. It's not his.
And that's it. She could have just written a letter. She could have just written a letter and said, listen,
exactly.
I'm sorry. You're probably wondering what's gone on. You knew I was pregnant. Actually, it wasn't yours. At some point she could have done that, surely.
I would expect that most people would. Like, I think that there's something missing in her, that she didn't find it necessary to let him have that ending so he could go on, so he could finish. She just, when you worry so much about how somebody's going to look at you that you don't care about what's happening to all the other people around you, that is completely cowardly and completely selfish. She was more worried about what he was going to think of her for having the affair, but she had it. She was unhappy. There's something to be said about owning your bullshit and moving forward. It's a lot easier, than messing up all these people's lives, so long. The child didn't have either father, because, she didn't even give him a chance. He may have still been a father to that child. You never know. Love is a weird thing. It can accomplish amazing things. Well, you never know.
Well, that's it. He was totally frozen out of any sort of conversation or discussion. There was no, and he was never even considered as having any kind of opinion that was valid to her.
Right. And she made him think that she wasn't even going to have the child, which became even more confusing when he found out that she did, because she really led him to believe that it was her body. She's going to do whatever she wants. She wanted nothing to do with him or the baby, period. She didn't want it. She wasn't happy about it.
And I think she must have known. She must have known there was a hell of a chance that baby was going to belong to the other fella, and it would be obvious at birth that the baby.
Right.
And I think that's why she didn't want it. I think she was getting a pie and she was having a cake and eating it. Sorry, and she knew that the baby would just change her life completely. So I think that's the motive, obviously, for her acting like that. But
and that's great, the thing is, like, no, she comes off like always is saying in the chat, that she comes off as a major manipulator in the relationship, a masterful manipulator. Because even if she was just vying for time to find out if the baby was his, and then tell him, she still should have sent that letter after she found out it wasn't. Even if she gave herself the months to figure it out or have the test or find out for sure before she told either one of them. I can understand wanting to be sure about things before you blow everybody's life apart. Maybe that was a little cowardly, but I can kind of see that a little bit. But then after the baby is born and you have all the pieces, why aren't you cleaning up your mess, tying up the loose ends?
Yeah, exactly. It was,
especially when you find out that these gifts are being left. It's not like you didn't know.
Yeah, well, and the granddad did mention at the end that he'd been receiving the letters, and he knew that he was trying to get into it. I mean, like I said, I'd have gone and knocked on the door, but at least he was sending communication. The granddad did admit to knowing it, which would have got back to the daughter.
Yeah, but no, because that's why it happens. That's why he loses control, because the granddad says, the child's grandfather says to him, "I destroyed every letter. She never knew you wrote to her."
Oh God, yeah.
That's why he's already broken. He gets up and first he runs away after he sees the child, and then he gets up enough guts to go back into the house and find out what's going on. Why wouldn't you just tell me? Like, why wouldn't she just get in touch with me? He just wants to know why. So he goes in to talk to the father, and he says that she never got any of your letters because I destroyed every one. She wanted nothing to do with you. You were violent because he threw the vase. He was violent. Yeah.
God. Yeah. Oh my word. And then, so then he loses his temper and punches him, doesn't he? With the snow
globe. Yeah, that's where the snow globe comes in again, because during this whole thing, he's got this snow globe. He's been leaving snow globes and stuff, and it's kind of the Christmas theme again. It's a little shaky snow kind of scene. But he hits the grandfather in the head with it, who slumps into the chair, and we assume he's dead. we assume he's dead. He does end up to be dead, but I don't know if Joe actually knows he's dead at this point. I'm confused about that part because he just panics and he leaves. Okay. And of course we go back to the table, and they're talking, Jon Hamm, Matt, and Joe. And he's like, wants to talk about, but what happened to the little girl? Like, how do you, what happened? What happened? And he's admitting that, he couldn't control himself and he hit the grandfather, whatever, and he left him there. And then he just ran out of the place and he left. And then we see snippets that Joe has left and he's living on the street for months before they finally pick him up and arrest him. We are assuming for this, for hitting the grandfather in the head. And we find out through the rest of the story that yes, the grandfather did pass down because the girl comes out from wherever she was to talk to her grandfather and she can't get him to wake up.
But she does give him his present, which was quite touching.
It was so it was it was touching. It was heartbreaking. I don't know about you, but my face was wet right now. Like my face was wet. I was like, Charlie Brooker, I'm really mad at you because you made my face wet. Like I was crying, because she was like so sweet and she doesn't understand what's going on. And you know what? That's a 4-year-old. None of this. She's an innocent. None of this had anything really. It was all about her. But it had nothing to do with her, and she had no control over any of it. She's a true innocent. She's not making any decisions here. Such a sweet kid. Gives grandpa his present, but then decides she can't wake him up and he needs help. Huh? Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you do, though, when you're 4 years old and it's freezing cold outside, covered in snow, and you need to go and get help? It's not going to end well, is it?
No, it doesn't end very well. We'll just get it over with. She puts on her snowsuit. She goes out there like she's gonna save the day because she's 4. She's smart. She knows what to do, and she gets as far as she can and sits down, gets tired by a tree, and freezes to death because she doesn't get back up.
Which it's a sort of an incredible ending, isn't it? Well, I mean, that's not the ending. I mean, there's more twists to come, but to that story, it's horrible.
To that story, to Joe's story about why he decided to go to the outpost, because remember, they're talking about what brought you here to the outpost, as if they're both willingly there at the outpost.
Yeah.
But I guess now I can tell you, they're not willingly there. They are both purposely there, put there. Like a mission. And that whole scenario of that 1950s kitchen starts to dissolve in front of us. And we realize it's the kitchen from the grandfather's house. It's the same. The clock, remember the clock ticking away. Okay.
Yeah.
Same one from the grandfather's house. Oh, all of these things coming into place. It's all taken from Joel's memory.
It was brilliant.
This whole scenario.
Such a fantastic reveal, that wasn't it? They're not there. They're in this simulation, and
yeah.
I mean, at that point, had the purpose of the simulation being revealed at that point, or was it just after?
It's like they're sitting at the kitchen table, and he's now revealing that he is recalling. They're like Matt keeps pushing him to remember what happened to the child. Over and over again. Like, why do you remember? What do you mean you don't remember? Like, you knew she was in the house. You knew she was in the house, right? Making all these probing questions. And he's telling him he doesn't remember. He doesn't remember. And then he does, like, then it comes out. We see the scene, what happens, okay? And then Jon Hamm, I believe it's Jon Hamm, right? Correct me if I'm wrong always, but at the end, when they get the confession that he knew she was in the house so they can get him for whatever they're going to get him for. Then Jon Hamm admits to him, and she probably, like a child, she just put on a snowsuit and walked off trying to get help, right? Wouldn't you do that? And when he realizes that that is possibly what happened, he does break a little bit right there, And
that's it. You feel sorry for him all the way up to that point, but then he has driven away knowing that a child is in a. Like, of course, you're worried about what's going to happen to you. You just potentially killed an old man, you know. And ultimately, what he's done, he's lashed out after years and years and years of being tortured, and he's taken one moment and lashed out, and it's ended horrifically. But you go up and down the pubs on a Saturday night in in the UK, and people are doing that for fun and getting away with it. He wasn't right to do what he did, but I can understand why he did it. And a jury might be very sympathetic to what he's gone through, but then he's pissed on his chips, really, as we say over here, when he's left the kid in the house, and that wasn't cool.
No, it wasn't. They get it, because I guess that's what they were leaning towards. I mean, when I look at the episode, that they're getting, like, you knew she was there. Like, you knew she possibly was there, whatever, trying to get him to admit that she must have been somewhere in the vicinity, and he knew about it. If he didn't see her leave the house himself or whatever, or didn't, because he didn't take her with him. He just left after he hit the grandfather. He just ran away, and just left it to what it was. But he's telling him, about the results, and, getting him to admit it. And you could see Joe's face, like the realization, like it didn't occur. It's painful. Like you can see pain all over him at the time. And at this point, we're just going to jump back to, now we're going to go, this is the real messed up part. You think that's not messed up enough if you're not all sad and have wet faces like I did at this terrible, he lost his girl, lost a child. Now he's actually committed a crime. It's been 4 or 5 years now. He's totally messed up everything in his life. And we find out towards the end, this is the end. We go to a scene that's all nice and shiny, like always was referring to, all like silver and metal desks and everything like that, because we're in a police station with Jon Hamm talking to some officers about whether or not he did a good job getting a confession from the cookie, which is Joe is the cookie. He's been in this simulation talking to a copy of Joe, because the real Joe is locked up in jail and won't talk to them or confess. And
it was brilliant.
Then, I was like, what? Like, oh my God, and it's like, and then you find out that Joe, of course, is going to be tried for 2 counts of manslaughter, because, it was, of course, like murder or whatever. Like, he's forever going to be charged for this. And I think that the charges are a bit much. And I think I went over this with Kim. I was talking to Kim about it earlier, that, in a fit of rage like that, you would think it would be manslaughter, like when he hit the father, because he was out of his mind. Obviously, he was out of his mind with everything that was going on.
And I think, a jury would have understood that, a jury would have understood, because he was in an absolutely awful position. But yeah, he didn't cover himself in glory with the way he followed up what happened, did he?
No, and he ran away. He didn't cover it up, but he ran away, right? And then he's just not talking about it. And then he didn't take care of the child, and he inadvertently caused the child's death by, endangering her welfare by leaving her unattended. But, if it was here in America, a good lawyer would have said he didn't actually know he was dead at the time. He thought maybe he just knocked him unconscious, and he did not have the actual knowledge that he was putting the child in danger, because he thought the grandfather would wake up and take care of her. And he was out of his mind. And besides that, he was out of his mind. Like, there was many avenues they could have taken to get it to a lesser, kind of scenario. But we don't get to go into all of that, because Brooker doesn't give us that opportunity, because he don't care about my legal mind. he just wanted me unsettled, which he did a really good job of. But yeah, and how would that confession? Here's the other thing: how can they try them on a confession, on a copy of you that's not you?
Exactly. I mean, we said before we come on air that even like a lie detector that is words coming out your own mouth can't be used.
Yeah. So
I don't think it can be used as evidence, can it?
No, it can be used to sway people's opinion about things, but it's not used as actual truth, evidence as a fact. No, it's because the science is not accurate enough. The percentages are not there that you can say it's an accurate science yet. So they don't use it as a fact. But if you find out someone failed the lie detector test, doesn't that persuade you a little bit about what might be going on?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So there's that. That's why, well, I don't think that the confession would have held up legally in the way things are now, but in Brooker's world it did, and this man is going to be punished for a very long time. Well, do you want to talk about what happens to Jon Hamm, to Matt? Is what his punishment? Because remember, he's not here. He's got to be there to get this confession, because it's part of his deal with the police in his reckoning to what he did between the schizophrenic and the guy who needed lessons in skill. So, like, because of those deaths, because remember they both took poison, so we're going to assume that they both are, if not both dead, then attempted murder and attempted suicide unassisted. Either one,
and he tried to cover it up.
Yeah, and he tried to cover it up by just closing everything up and leaving. So part of his deal is to go and try to get this, because of the technology he works with, and he's so good at torturing cookies, apparently. What a thing to be known for. They decide to use him to try to coerce this confession from Joe, which was successful. He got him to tell the story as best he could.
And he does kind of allude to that earlier on in the show, when they are sat having a conversation. He does throw away some sort of innocent lines about how good he is with manipulating people and understanding minds. And there's one bit where he says, if the secret to getting something from somebody is to push them just to breaking point, but make sure they don't snap. And there are a few points where he's kind of alluding to the fact that he's very, very good at sort of interrogating, I suppose.
Yeah. And that's why he started this, because he has a lucrative business in torturing cookies. Okay. But that wasn't enough. That's why he started this extra money thing with this voyeurism, with doing the, let me get these guys, to get dates and stuff like that, because he wasn't satisfied. He liked being able to convince people of things. He wanted to convince these women that these guys were dateable. Even though he picked really nerdy ones, I don't want to be cruel, but a little below average, you would say. And he took it as a challenge to get them with some of the hottest women that he could. He built them up to say you could do it, because he believed in his skill in being able to manipulate them. And he found it fascinating. He was bragging about it. You're right. He kept bragging about it. Like his fascination with psychology and the mind.
Yeah. I noticed that quite. Not that I'm great at spotting Easter eggs or anything like that, but I did notice that through the show. I thought, oh yeah. But then again, I suppose it helped that I'd already seen it before when I was reviewing it. But back to that guy at the beginning, like I know he was the kind of dressed him up and made his hair so he would look like a bit of a geek, etc. But I thought he was doing really well. I thought he was dead confident, and people liked him. Even on the bit where he was improvising, I thought, he'd have been sticking about. He'd have been okay. Put a few drinks down him, and he'd have been all right on his own. I'm not so sure he needed the help, but yeah, true. It were.
I think without the help, he might have lived.
Well, yeah.
He may not have gotten the hottest girl in the room, but he would have lived. Okay,
yeah. He wouldn't have got the one that tried to poison him.
Yes, exactly. He wouldn't have got that one with the the really hot, crazy eyes. The schizophrenic. Like there's usually something going on there. But yeah, that was a bit much. Well, on the legal part, Kim is asking if cookies are truly sentient and have all human rights. Then if a cookie is responsible for harm to another entity, should they not also be responsible? Well, yeah, but we don't know that they have rights, because In this world, in Brooker's world that he laid out in this episode, obviously they don't, because Jon Hamm is able to torture them to do whatever he wants, and they're not able to fight about it. They're not able to do anything about it, right? They don't have rights, you know.
But he can control everything about them, can't he? He can control how they experience time. He can control, I'm assuming, the conditions that they're living in. He's got total and utter power over them, isn't he?
Yes, he did. It was he seemed to enjoy it too. I mean, it wasn't like cackling, laughing, or anything, but it didn't bother him. I mean, he definitely could separate himself. He truly doesn't think that they're human. I'll tell you that, because I don't think he could function that way if he thought they were human at all. Although they have all the human thought and emotions that we do, they are not the person. And he's looking at it as some type of technology that he needs to control.
Yeah.
So yeah, but he pays for that in the end. Yeah. Do you want to tell them what happens to Jon Hamm?
Hang on. Now I've just watched this literally before we finished. Did I? Right. What I saw, it finished. I saw him stand up with the policeman and walk away. Okay. And then they go to the cell and they open the cell and they say, listen, it doesn't matter that you're not speaking because we've just got a confession from your cookie. Thank you very much. And then what I remember is the credits roll. Have I thought, oh, that's the end of it? And have I missed the final twist?
Oh, God.
Have I come on here and missed the final twist?
Are you sitting down? Because there's 2 final twists. Are you ready? Are you sitting? Because I don't want you to fall off anything or, fall over, hit your head or anything. I don't want to be responsible.
Have I missed?
Okay, first of all, I'll start with the one with they go to the cell and they let him know that his cookie has confessed. Okay. Yeah. All right. Then they go back and they're still talking. They're talking to Jon Hamm, who is, Matt, who is the marketing salesman, the torturer. He actually talks to them about his sentencing. He says, okay, so everything's good. Did I get you everything you needed? So we're all square. And they said, yes, but the final part of your sentencing is that you are listed as a sex offender now because of what happened before, because they were voyeuring in on the acts.
Yep.
And that includes being blocked by everyone in the world. Jon Hamm has to live the rest of his life all colored out and with no contact from any other single person on the planet because he's a danger to society. So he is permanently blocked, legally blocked from the world as a sex offender. He can be no harm. And as Kim said before, the color red was like in this episode in really strong places. And that's one where they put it. He's not only just blocked as a sex offender, but so are murderers and pedophiles. They're all red. We're not blocked just white. We're blocked red. So people can see that you're blocked red and come up and start yelling at you, spitting at you, and dealing with you based on what offense they think you committed. And he can't do anything.
I remember now you said that from the first time viewing it on that Christmas Eve years ago. Today, I honestly thought, oh, that's it. I just thought, oh, that's it. And I've turned it off. Balls. Yeah, but no, I do remember that now from the first viewing, which is... shocking.
Yeah, it was, to me, I was just like, damn, I'm kind of, the fact that he can't, wait a minute, what did she say? Always says the fact that Matt cannot just adjust some code to make the cookie comply, but must manipulate with torture shows the cookie has some ability to feel and experience. I agree with that. It shows that he has to manipulate them. He can't just make it like technology, like turn it to code 33 or 42, the answer to everything, and make it all right. He has to actually manipulate them. Very good point, Kim. Thank you. But yeah, now, do you think he deserved that?
I don't think he deserved that. No, because I don't think he's not on the same level as a predator.
That's extreme. Yeah. Like, well, what I think they were worried about, if they take the whole picture in what he does, maybe it was because they were worried about what he can do. How he got pleasure in manipulating things and people, and they apparently they don't want him doing it to the rest of the world, and they blocked him completely. But then Joe also gets like a sentence, and he is like he's going to spend his life in jail because of the loss of the 2 lives, because of the confession. And he's not talking, and he's kind of already in jail, and he seems resolved to it. But we still have the cookie. And the cookie is, Cookie Joe is still in the egg and still in the kitchen. And the song is playing. And the officers are like, well, it's Christmas and we're going home for the holiday. And, they're joking around and they're like, well, what do we do about the cookie? And they said, well, it's Christmas. When we come back, we'll just leave the song on. He deserves it for what he did. And they actually are torturing him even more. And then we see one of the ending scenes is that the radio is going off with the song and Joe throws it to break it because he can't stand the song anymore now that he knows what he did, that he left the child and the child died too. And he's just besides himself. Every time he hears the song, it's Christmas and he's freaking out. But every time he breaks it, it just appears again and plays louder.
No, I do.
He does it again. That. Yeah. And he does it again and again. And they're in there in the room and they lead you to believe that that's going to continue happening all weekend while they're gone, which would be like a really long time for Joe.
Well, can you imagine? He's on fast forward, isn't he? He's on fast forward. It would be decades for him. Decades.
Mm-hmm. Decades of that torture until they come back and destroy the sentient cookie. Can you imagine? That it's like, he did not deserve that. I don't care. I don't care about the legal system. I'm sorry the grandfather is dead and the child is dead. I'm sorry. But he doesn't deserve that. That was too much.
Yeah.
But you don't even want to know what I called Charlie Brooker at the end of this episode. Not fit for YouTube, but he deserved it. But he wanted us to call him that because remember, he said in the beginning, I want you unsettled.
Yeah, he did a good job of that.
Yeah. I want you thinking dark, unsettled, and not that he's good, but yeah. So did I twist you out with those 2 endings? Huh?
Well, no, but I did today see the one where they left him over the. So I must have just looked away from the screen for a minute when they when they said the other guy's going to be blocked by everybody, because I did see the woman say, "Oh, it's Christmas, leave him on for the weekend." And it did zoomed in on the panel to show it was all fast forward in his time. So I must have just had a moment. When
I guess if you don't actually flash back to what that means with the radio going off and him throwing it and then the radio coming back and it happens in one a 30-second cycle over and over and over again, that's what he's going to have to live with for that whole time. It's like, oh my God, it's like too much. But and then Jon Hamm too, as much as I didn't like his character, and I love the actor is one of my favorites, but he really did a good job playing this because I really detested him at the end for what he was doing. But even I didn't think he deserved the ending he got, because he's not just registered as a sex offender, and having to deal with that. No one, he'll not have a life. No one sees him as a person anymore. He's just a red entity that they should be angry with because he's done something offensive.
Yeah. But it's a great episode. Like when I was watching it again today, just hit home how good they all are, really. But that one, I mean, you've got almost 4 stories. I know there's 3 stories told in the show, but then you've got the underlying story that the whole thing is a simulation, and it's like 4. And what they packed that in an hour and 10 minutes. 4 very clever stories all intertwined. Really,
one of his longest, and he did it on purpose. He made it longer because he knew what he was going to address. And you're right. It's got 3 vignettes, and then the overall story. We haven't even begun to there's so much we could unpack on the psychological, society, technologically, just all the warpedness of it in general. We could go on and on and on, but who's got that kind of time? But that's why these episodes are timeless classics. Anybody gets into these, you could watch them. I've watched each one more than once. I don't even want to tell you how many times, some of them, because I'm still finding something every time. Every time you find something else he was trying to tell us or say or something new. Just like, there's parts that just bleed in and then you watch it again and they pop back out, based on the cinematography or something that they say, which was a damn good writing, which is what I love about Charlie Brooker. They could say whatever they want about him. He knows what the hell he's doing. One of the best writers out there for this.
Yeah. So. Brilliant storyteller. He's absolutely fantastic. The gripping, they're going to be gripping. No matter what it's about, and he does genres really well. He's done sci-fi. He's done
his comedy is pretty good. His comedy is pretty good when he does that. He does his news comedy thing. Is pretty weird. I like that too. He's all around. Very funny. And you did hear that there's going to be a new episode, right? There's going to be more. There's a new series coming out of Black Mirror. He's with Netflix right now. They have the cast. They are in production.
Good.
We're gonna get more. So I'm kind of really excited about that.
Yeah.
It's
one of the rare gems, isn't it? One of the rare TV gems that you just know is going to be a big hit. You know they're going to be great.
It is
pieces of art.
Well, it is. It's going to be great for me. I'm going to love every second of it. I can't wait. I just hope they do better than when they brought Dexter back, because I'm really mad about how that. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody who didn't see this last season of Dexter after the break. But what they did is just wrong. Just wrong. That's all I'm going to say. It's just wrong. But, on that, do you have anything else you'd like to say about the episode? Because I kept you longer than I promised, and I know it's Father's Day there too. You might want to relax, put your feet up a little bit as you deserve.
Well, I might watch another episode of Black Mirror after this. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm laughing because somebody who loves Black Mirror as much as I do, or Kim, I don't find them that often. I'm thrilled. Like, I can't believe it. I'm not a geek in the world alone.
No, they are brilliant. I just thought the episode was fantastic, but it was the one that got me hooked onto it, because I remember watching it while it was Christmas Eve, and it was on Channel 4 over here before it went to Netflix. So it was on like terrestrial TV.
Right.
And you put the adverts in, the time for the adverts, and that took the whole thing to about an hour and 40 minutes, when you factor the adverts. And I remember sitting watching it like it was a film, thinking, wow, Channel 4 have really outdone themselves. What a brilliant, thing to put on for Christmas. And, like I said, without even realizing it was part of an anthology series. And it just hit home today, rewatching it, just how clever and how brilliant it was.
And did you end up watching them as they came out, each one, and then go back and watch the original first series?
Well, I couldn't do that until because I didn't have Netflix at the time. I couldn't actually do that until I got Netflix, which was about a year later. And then because obviously there was some on Channel 4, but I knew there was a whole backlog of ones that I'd missed. I'd missed all of season 1, first 3 episodes of season 2. So as soon as he hit Netflix, that was it. It was just straight back to the start and binge watched them.
When it came to America, when I first got to see it here, the first episode was the one with the pig.
Yeah.
Yep. And I was like, oh my God, what did I just watch? And I was hooked after that. I was like, first of all, he got it on there. He actually did it. And I said, I'll give him good props for that. He actually did it all the way through. He didn't get banned. It didn't get canned. He actually got it on film, So, gave him good credit. And then I was hooked after that. Like, I just couldn't wait for every single one that came out, which they dragged them out a little bit for us here. But you guys had them first, which I've been hooked ever since. But I really enjoyed this, cats. I really did. I would do this again anytime. This was fun. Of course, I do it every week. But, I think the next one I'm doing with Kim is Crocodile. And then, of course, we have Bandersnatch. And how does one cover Bandersnatch? Got any ideas on that? Hit me up, because that's going to be rough.
I think with Bandersnatch, a good idea will be to compare stories, because for those who don't know, Bandersnatch is one of those interactive ones where you use remote control to make decisions about where you want the story to go at different points. So everybody's going to have watched a slightly different version of the episode. But I've never sat and spoken to somebody who's also watched it and seen the version, and I'm just totally unaware about what version you might have seen. What are the similarities and differences? And I think that would be great.
That's what I was thinking. Like maybe a panel of 6 volunteers that love the series, that would watch it and then talk about it. We'll go through it and just say what happened at this point, each one of us, and like how we switched it up and the things that happened and what we thought about it. I thought it would be quite interesting, maybe, at least 3, maybe 6, because there would be enough, like it probably have to do it in 2 separate episodes, but definitely I can't end the series without covering it because it's out there and it's Brooker's and I'm like addicted and obsessed. And so I'm going to have to figure out a way to do it. But yeah, you're probably right. Just talking to somebody about how they went through the selection, what it was, what they did, what the story told was for them, because they're all different. There's so many different versions. There's no way to cover all of them. That's for sure.
No.
I don't know. But on that, I'm going to thank you so much for this. This was a real treat for me. I hope you enjoyed yourself as much as I definitely did.
Lovely to sit down and have a Sunday chat, especially about something like this. I do enjoy it. It's dead interesting. So yeah, thank you very much for having me on.
Oh, and thank you, Kim, for helping out with the questions in there, and thank you to the mods and everybody who was in the chat enjoying and talking with us. And we hopefully, Kim and I will be back with another one. And don't forget to catch Culture Chats every weekend with his new uploads. He does them as a premiere. I have his channel linked below down there. I'm sure most of you already subscribe, but for those of you that are here for me that haven't yet, you need to subscribe to him. He's awesome. He's funny as hell.
Thank you.
And if I say he's funny because I know funny. So thanks. But thank you so much for your time today, and I really had a blast. I'm gonna put the outro on and let you get on with your day, and we'll talk soon. Yeah. Okay.
Okie dokie. Right.
All right.
So. Right. Well, thank you very much. So, am I leaving, or do we say goodbye off air? How do you normally do this?
I just put on the end. I put on an outro that breaks a bunch of glass in their ear, and I let them go. Let's see.
Oh, in that case, then I will speak to you on Twitter, and we'll catch up and do something again. But and we do.
Oh, I would love to do something again with you. Anything, because it's good content, and we seem to like the same kind of oddball stuff. It's good.
Definitely. Oh, let's make it happen then. Right.
Okay, we will. All right. Have a great Father's Day. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Okay. Yeah. And for everybody in the chat, we'll see you all soon. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.